In our earlier reports, we aired complaints from former drivers who alleged the airport limousine service was violating its city contract by acting as a taxi service. They said the city contract only allowed them to transport passengers to and from businesses and motels, back and forth from the airport. They alleged service manager Pete Cox dispatched them to private residences. In Your Corner, check that out. We phoned the limousine service twice and had no difficulty at all in ordering a limousine to a private residence. Since that time, sources wishing to remain anonymous played tape-recorded phone calls to the limousine dispatcher asking for residential pickups. 6 times the pickups were promised, as well as help with the passenger's luggage from the house. Well, In Your Corner recorded such a pickup in Nichols Hills using a hidden camera and microphone. The female driver alleged residential pickups were routinely ordered. She also confirmed allegations of sexual harassment by the limousine manager.
As far as like offering money, he does that to all the female drivers.
Has he done it to you?
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, he'll say he's got $50 and 2 minutes to spare and stuff like that.
After that story aired, I was contacted by that driver, Mickey Keene, who said she was fired. She said when she returned from 3 days sick leave, she was told they had 2 broken down cars and no car for her to drive, and that they already had too many drivers. However, Mickey alleges she saw a new driver on the job.
There's been 3 that I've been told of. One that I know for a fact has been hired since Friday, or Thursday night, I should say. He started back driving Friday. He used to drive there before and left, quit on his own, and he come back. And he was driving Friday because I was at the airport and I seen him. He waved at me.
Mickey also alleges that residential runs continued at the limousine service. She said after I interviewed manager Pete Cox, he left and his wife took over and changed the records.
And I was standing with my arms propped up on the windowsill watching Cordia do it. Pete's wife, was tearing the pages out, and she was frantically writing in this one and flipping this page and writing.
Did anybody else see this?
A couple of the other drivers, which are still employed out there, and I'm sure, right now I don't think they'd say they did, because it would cost them their job.
And it cost you your job, you believe?
I sure do.
In the meantime, a petition from former drivers asking for the removal of Pete Cox and an anonymous letter to the mayor concerning the limousine service are being investigated. A preliminary report from the city manager's office went to the city council today. It says violations of the contract have been corrected in the past. The drivers tell me the corrections were never heeded by the limousine management. They wonder why it's allowed to continue. Well, the contract is up for renewal, but the drivers contacting In Your Corner expect no changes. I went to visit Mrs. Josie Moore, who seemed to be having more than her share of troubles, and they all hit about the same time, which finally prompted her to call In Your Corner. Hello, are you Josie?
Yes, I am.
Brad Edwards, nice to meet you. How are you today? Josie said she wanted to prepare Thanksgiving dinner for her and her 2 children, Sammy and Catherine, but she was without a stove, among other things. Tell me what happened now to your range.
Well, we were going to move, and a man drawed up, he wanted to buy the house, and we had a contract drawed up. And at the last minute, he backed out of it, but we went ahead and sold the stove. So it left us without a cook stove, because, of course, my husband left, before then. So I don't drive, and it's kind of hard for me to get anywhere to go get anything. And my neighbors try to help as much as they can, but you can't, keep pushing in there and, bothering people. But they try awful hard to help me.
Now, what do you do for money these days?
Not very good. I've been selling things like you seen that tub out there and I got for sale. I sell things because I'm trying to sell little things. I've sold pots and pans and dishes and knickknacks, and I've sold, I had 2 refrigerators. They're both old ones, so I sold the oldest one so I could have some money, to buy food and everything. So that's helped a lot there.
So Josie and her children are without a cook stove. Not only that, but her hot water heater went out. The only way she gets hot water these days is with her electric cooking wok.
And I warm it up and wash the kids with it.
So that's electric wok, and you heat water in there to bathe the kids.
Yes, sir.
I see.
It comes in handy, I'll
Yeah,
tell you. When that went out, I was really
But it
nervous.
must take a little bit of
Oh, yeah.
work to get enough hot water
Oh, yeah.
that way.
It takes quite a while because just when you're getting that one, warmed up, the other one's done cold, so you're just defeating the purpose. It keeps going around.
Josie's cupboards were also bare. She was out of food except for a gallon of milk. So In Your Corner first tried to get the Moores a Thanksgiving dinner, and we got some help from the business community. Wyatt's Cafeteria had cooked turkey dinners for sale. Manager Mike Leonard donated one of those dinners to In Your Corner. It was large enough to serve 10 to 12, and I presented it this afternoon to Josie Moore and her children. This is a Thanksgiving dinner for 10 to 12 people. Wow. I don't know what all is in here, but let's take a look. There's a turkey and dressing and some cranberries and looks like some mashed potatoes.
Oh.
Let's see, I don't know what all is down in there. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good sized turkey, isn't it?
Yeah.
You kids like turkey?
Yeah.
Do you? Makes you hungry already, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Pumpkin pie.
That's Sammy's favorite.
Is that your favorite, Sammy?
Yeah.
Oh, good. We're hoping to find a used gas range for Josie, but in the meantime, she said she'd be able to heat the pre-cooked dinner next door. But the most important thing, Josie said, was being able to have a Thanksgiving dinner at home for the children.
I got a little bit down today because it was getting so near to Thanksgiving, and I asked God, I said, God, you got to give me the faith because I can feel being drained out of me. And I said, please let something happen. And I called you, and I really, in a million years, I never thought you would answer.
Andrew Lester is a native Oklahoman, a graduate of Oklahoma State University. He began his work as a sculptor as a young man in Oklahoma, then ended up sculpting and teaching school in Mariposa, California. He's done a bust of Martin Luther King for the city of San Bernardino, California. He's done busts of Jim Thorpe, one of which sits in the Senate Lounge at Oklahoma State Capitol Building. And Andrews donated several works to Oklahoma State University. But one project he began, he forgot about. It came about 10 years ago when Lester did 4 busts to symbolize the history of the San Francisco Police Department. Then he was involved in a head-on car collision which caused him brain damage and affected his memory. He just remembered about those police busts just recently, but nobody else did.
The police officers in the line of duty on the street wanted it done. I went to them with the idea that they ought to have a memorial like Los Angeles. And Los Angeles had made slabs like geometric shapes and very impersonal. They didn't like them. And they said, we want something personal. I said, okay, would you like me to pick out the ethnic groups and the years they came in? And they said, yes. So I made a U.S. Deputy Marshal to represent the 49ers Gold Rush days to 1900s. And then I picked photographs of the officers and made prototypes of them. And I picked Irishmen for the 1920s and 30s. Then I picked second-generation Italians for the 30s and 40s and part of the 50s. Then I picked a black for the 1950s and 60s.
Okay. Now, did somebody commission that or say, yes, let's...
Yes, let's do it. And they said the Art Commission will pay for it. But the Art Commission had already bought pictures to put in their offices, and the officers didn't like them because they were modernistic. And they wanted to give me some money at one time, but I had this accident, and I wasn't able to communicate with them. You know, the officers, I think, were going to do it. But now, after 10 years, I want to donate it. I just don't want to fuss around about money anymore.
8 days ago, by telephone, I began a search in San Francisco's police department and city government for someone who might remember about Andrew Lester's police sculptures. Finally, I found a senior police sergeant who said that story rang a bell. And finally, today, I talked with the president of their police association who recalled a dispute over the police memorial. And he wondered what happened to sculptor Andrew Lester. He said he would still like to have the busts and said he thinks there's a good chance they can be placed in San Francisco's Hall of Justice as the police requested 10 years ago. Leonard Eves and his brother have done auto repairs at this location for about 30 years, and their father before them. But the problem has nothing to do with cars except for getting them out the back door of the garage and around to their property on the east side of the shop. Leonard says they can't do that because the alley is blocked by an OG&E utility pole. Leonard says he can't drive around the pole without driving across the property of a neighbor behind him. So he went to battle with OG&E to get the pole moved a little further down the alley. Were you here when they moved those poles?
Oh, yes, I was here when they moved the poles.
What did they say?
Well, they came in the shop and asked if they could move them. I said, sure, you can move them, just so you don't put them on where we can't use the alley. We didn't at the time know it was only an 8-foot alley, but they did. That's the reason they moved the poles.
I see. So now you need to get through there, and what do they tell you?
They've told us everything that they can think of, mostly untrue statements.
Well, now the city says it's an inactive alley. Is that correct?
This is what the letter from the city attorney says, that it is an inactive alley, but it is still an alley.
Where does that leave you, though?
High and dry. It just leaves us with a pole in the middle of the alley, and we still can't get between our properties.
The pole was moved into the alley in 1966, and in 1969, the Oklahoma City government declared that alley inactive. City records confirm that. However, OG&E agreed to move the pole anyway if Leonard would pay for it. He declined each offer. OG&E's final offer was to move the pole up against Leonard's shop. He pays $200, they pay $200. Leonard said no. I asked OG&E spokesman Dow Dozier why they wouldn't pay to move the pole.
Then after he raised so much cane about it, we said, okay, you've caused us a lot of trouble, we're causing you a lot of trouble, we'll split the cost with you, which is unusual that we would do that. And so we offered to move it back there for $200, and he said, no, I'm not paying anything on it. So that's, our whole premise is, Brad, that we are here legally, and that to move that thing for him at no charge would be a disservice to the rest of our customers, because we'd be paying or they would be paying for us relocating service to one customer, just for his convenience, and that's strictly what this is.
Dozier said OG&E's pole is there legally even if the alley wasn't declared inactive because they are on the city easement reserved for utilities. But Leonard insists the pole is in the middle of an alley blocking his access to his own property. This is Leonard's pole marking the north boundary of his property, and there's a possibility of building a fence along the boundary, making this alley too narrow for anybody to use. Maybe Leonard can't get past OG&E's pole, but they couldn't get past it either, trying to get access to other utility poles along this alley. A neighbor called about Janie Bordeo, saying she needed some help. Well, I visited her apartment, where she explained that her natural gas had been shut off 4 days ago. Now she has no heat and has to cook on a one-burner electric hot plate donated by her neighbor. She has to cook for 5 children, ranging in age from 17 years old down to 2 years old, all living at home. The worst part is that Janie, now divorced, is expecting a 6th child. And the baby is 2 weeks overdue and could come any time now. I asked her how she got into a predicament with the gas company.
Well, I had to have my gas turned on here, and I didn't have the money, and I went down there and I told them, and then, they needed the ID card, and I gave them my name, from where I used to live before, and the bill come up from the bill from the last place where I lived at. So that's where it's $300 that I'm behind on.
And your last
and they won't
apartment?
turn it on here until I have the whole bill paid up.
I see. Do they know your financial situation and the amount of children?
I explained to them, and I told them that I was expecting the kids that I had, and all this and that, by Christmas. I said no. So I would have to pay the whole thing out before they would turn the gas on.
Janie says it looks like a sparse Christmas for her children.
There's nothing I can do for Christmas, because I'm not working right now. I don't have any money coming in from anywhere, and there's just not much I can do.
How are your kids handling all this?
They're not handling it too well, And they want all this and they want all that, and I can't. There's no way. They're just not going to have it,
What do they say to you?
I had explained to them, that they wouldn't get what they wanted this year, because I'm not able to work right now, and I just don't have the money. That's about it.
I checked with ONG about Janie's case. Officials said there was a problem here. They said they had carried her for 7 months with only a $40 payment. When she moved to another apartment, they alleged someone turned her gas on illegally, which is considered stealing. So all back bills must be paid before the gas goes back on. ONG is investigating the case and may be able to refer Janie to assistance agencies. In Your Corner found she is eligible for low-income energy assistance for $135, but she needs $492 altogether. While she's pregnant, she's not working and is on welfare, but has to pay $280 a month rent plus bills. However, a member of the business community, Tom Fenimore of Colonel Corn, has offered to help out, as he did last year on In Your Corner, and we hope to get Janie's problems worked out for this Christmas. Luther Burleson told me he thought it sounded like a pretty good deal to get his driveway graveled at half price. He said 2 trucks pulled up in front of his house early last month. They saw him out back and told him they'd been working on a road project nearby and had some gravel left over. Just to get rid of it, they said they would do his driveway at half the regular price, 75 cents a square foot, and they would oil the ground first. Well, Luther said okay, it didn't seem like it would cost too much, but it did. It cost him about $600.
I didn't know the quality of the job until someone else told me what the quality of the job should have been. Now so I didn't have any argument coming then, because I didn't really know the quality of the job until someone, or my neighbor that hauls the oil and gravel, knows the quality of what it should have been. Where the grass, he said the grass should not have come on up through it when it killed the grass, but grass grows right on up through it. Here it's been about a month, and the grass is green, growing right on up through it.
Luther's neighbor, Connie Waddell, told us her husband hauls gravel, and he assessed the job. Your husband hauls gravel. What did he estimate this job at?
No more than $100. And he said it wasn't even a ton of gravel out there.
Mrs. Burleson argued with the men about the price, but Edith says they argued back heatedly and told her she didn't know what she was talking about. They were so anxious for their money that they helped Luther fill out the check. And when the check came back, Luther noticed that the worker spelled his last name one way on the front of the check and another way when he signed it on the back to cash it. Well, they haven't seen the men since, so the Burlesons, who live on retirement, are out $600. A couple of days later, they did this job for the Hubbards, also in Midwest City. They charged $800 for this job. This time, they gave the name Fred Cox of Southwest 29th Street. We can't find any Fred Cox on Southwest 29th Street. However, the Hubbards did notice that the vehicles had Missouri tags on them. You know, this is an easy scam to pull off. Anybody with a pickup truck can buy a load of gravel, take it to a citizen who needs their driveway covered and doesn't know what gravel is worth, cover their driveway, get a check, get to the bank immediately, cash it, and be out of the city in a couple of hours. The gravel scam sounds similar to some of the alleged scams attributed to the gypsies that In Your Corner reported on last summer. The gypsies allegedly targeted in on the elderly. They would say they had some asphalt left over from a road paving job and would pave your driveway at half the price, then present the customer with an outrageous bill afterward and insist that they pay it. Also, the gypsies would allegedly offer to waterproof your roof with watered-down paint and continually raise the price as they did the job, sometimes doubling the quoted price. However, Oklahoma City Detective Bob Rao tells me the gravel scam may not be gypsies. He said it is a new scam and that about 3 cases would be reported in one area. Then the crew disappears before they can be found and questioned about the prices they charge. As I went to visit the Combs residence, I noticed the roof in the front of the house looked in good condition. But Dolly Combs told me the roofman she hired worked on the back side of the house, the flatter side. She had called him to fix a leak in a back room where her husband had cut a hole in the ceiling to let the water out. It was so bad. They found Ricky Beasley's ad in the newspaper service directory and called him to do the repairs. She said he fixed the original leak, but
it leaked in new places it hadn't never leaked before.
But it was the same side of the house that he
Yeah,
had worked
yeah,
on.
the same room that he put the roof on, it leaked.
Did he give you any kind of a guarantee?
Yes, he did. He gave us a 3-year guarantee on it.
So when this began happening, did you contact him again?
Yes, we went over to his house, and we finally got, it was his wife, I guess, came to the door, and she said that he wasn't home right then.
Beasley's business card said he specializes in leaks. Well, Dolly wonders if he specializes in fixing them or causing them with all the leaks she has now. All this after she paid him $325. He put new felt on the backside of the roof and then tarred over it. He covered that with aluminum paint, but Dolly says that paint washed off with the rain. She'd been trying to get him to honor his 3-year guarantee for 3 months with no luck.
It's supposed to rain tomorrow. What are you going to do tomorrow?
Just like I've done all the time, get the trash can put under the drips.
Well, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so I went to look for Ricky Beasley at his home and his business address at 3306 South Quapaw. Ricky here? Oh, do you know when he'll be back?
He don't live here.
Oh, he doesn't live here anymore? Oh, where's he living now?
Well, we're separated at the time.
Oh, I see.
Could I help you in any way?
Well, I'm Brad from Channel 4, and some people are complaining about a roof job he did, and I wanted to talk to him, see if we couldn't work it out, get it fixed for him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know nothing about it, you know. We're separated right now.
Oh, I see.
You know.
How long has he been gone?
No, he's been gone. Well, off and on, he's been back. And as far as I know, he's in Texas, you know.
Think he's in Texas?
Well, that's where he's at.
I see. You think he'll be coming back to do any work, or
I don't
he guaranteed a lady's roof for 3 years?
Yeah. I don't have the least idea. I don't know nothing what he does, you know. Maybe comes back and aggravate me or something, you know.
Aggravate?
Yeah.
How's he aggravate?
And you know what I'm talking about. Come back and tell me to go back with him, and I tell him no, and that's it, you know.
You don't want to go back with him?
No, I sure don't.
Well, do you know, does he have any business partners or anybody that worked with him that might own up to the guarantees on his work?
No, my nephew had talked to this lady, and he was going to go ahead and get somebody because she kept coming to me, you know.
Yeah.
But she never did give his address.
Well, I gave Mrs. Beasley the Combs address, but it is doubtful if the Combs can ever get Ricky Beasley to honor his 3-year guarantee since he has left the state. That's one of the problems with picking out a repairman from the newspaper service directory. The workmen are not endorsed by the paper. The workmen just pay to advertise there.
Tell me again what you want for Christmas now. Just one more time.
Quickly. I want some play makeup, a stuffed unicorn, strawberry shortcake clothes, and a strawberry shortcake game, and Barbie clothes.
Barbie clothes.
Okay, nothing else.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure in case I run into Santa Claus in my travels, I'll tell him what you want.
He's got the letter.
Oh, you already sent him a letter, huh? Oh, I see. You send it to the North Pole? Okay.
Every little girl needs some toys for Christmas, but most of all, this little girl needs a lung transplant. Kimberly may have not included that in her letter to Santa, but her parents have put that in their letters to doctors and hospitals around the country. The response has been frustrating, particularly as they see their daughter's condition worsen. Kimberly can only walk a few paces before she's short of breath, the result of a disease called DIP at the age of 2. Kimberly's lungs were severely damaged. Now, at age 6, she has the lungs of a 2-year-old and must take oxygen at a rate of 6 liters per minute, higher than most adults with emphysema. David and Sandra Fuller have not been able to find a hospital that can arrange the transplant because of a drug used to help the body accept a transplanted organ, a drug called cyclosporin A. Hospitals who do transplants say federal guidelines show the drug should not be used in those under the age of 12.
I had understood that they were giving it to the children that are getting kidney transplants and liver transplants. They're giving them some sort of a drug that keeps the tissue from being rejected.
Did he explain why they couldn't use cyclosporin A under 12?
Because it stunts their growth.
So that puts you in what sort of a dilemma? You have a choice between if they would let you use this drug.
Okay, well, if we use the drug and this transplant was successful, then it could stunt her growth. And if we don't have the transplant, then the only other alternative is a permanent type situation.
The Fullers, as well as In Your Corner, have contacted some of the few hospitals that perform such transplants, Stanford in California and Montefiore in New York City. They have not accepted Kimberly's case. Montefiore officials at first were encouraging.
He was very excited about the situation. He said they had done 7 adults, 4 were successful, and that they were ready to do a child. He wanted to know her blood type and her whole situation. We had probably a 20-minute conversation that day. And he said, I told him, I said, now I want to tell you that the federal guidelines will not let us give cyclosporin A to a child this young. They have to be 12 years or older. And he said that federal guidelines are made to be broken.
Well, In Your Corner began trying to find out why they would not accept the case. After talking to medical agencies and hospitals around the nation, we talked to officials of the company in New Jersey that manufactures the drug cyclosporin A. They say there has never been a successful single lung transplant, and that's what Kimberly needs, 1 lung. And we learned the lung transplant operation itself is still considered experimental, especially on a child of this age. Kimberly's parents feel, for Kimberly, there is no alternative.